That area you were talking about, remember I asked you about that before, because I done that section.
But this, I think the city might have access to it, might not be privately owned. So it's a major question, because that's a big parking area. And there's a park right there.
Which one?
Okay.
We're talking about.
So if this is Holy Cross,
Yeah, so after it comes out,
There's.
after it comes out, let me turn on highways really quick.
there's a,
Right around here.
yes.
Okay.
I can tell you.
Babcock Electric, okay.
Yes. Technically, I mean.
Alright.
I didn't want to put it, but I'm licensed. Actually, you know, you've got walk.
Yeah.
You can't even drive.
So.
And we walked the entire way down.
Yeah.
I think that is.
But then again, it's
Again.
tricky.
You're gonna play side by side, every time you know, walk.
Yeah,
And then-
that was my number one.
After the game,
We gotta go last.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you got, so where do you take out, it's all the dam.
Put the aerial layer on there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe it could be developed in that pedestrian walk.
So I'm just gonna make sure that Emily's kind of trying to follow here too, all right, most northern possible access is not.
So this
greater
is Holy
than
Cross.
Tobias Way behind Walmart.
No, it's beautiful access. There's just not.
I don't know where Holy
a
Cross is in
long stretch
relation
of
to.
river And a place.
So we are, I think this
But
is
here-
Coves right here.
All right, yeah, so I'm main stem down here where they come in together.
Yes, that we
So
get
right here.
We get
Further down
middle where it comes out of the cold.
where the visitor center is. So is this, no, that's,
And
a real one.
you come down 100 yards, and then there's a parking lot off of, was that a Kraken Road or something? And then a
Mhm.
pedestrian bridge that went
Okay.
across.
I know where that is.
So
Okay.
that's what I call access. It's,
How do you get it?
you drive off of,
No,
That's too far.
physically, I'm holding
Is
my phone.
this,
That's too far down. We need to go up.
you drive down the bank. A bank parking lot
so
is only
then-
2-3 feet higher than the,
Zoom in a little more.
so.
Where, you're saying McCracken, do you mean McKeon?
McKee, I get that, yes.
Okay, but you're up near the visitor center, is where you're.
That's above the.
Well, I see McCracken on here.
Mhm.
That's a lower down from the.
Yeah.
Not the highest.
So the visitor center is down here.
It's up, you gotta.
Yeah.
go up.
McKeon
No,
is
McKee
in like
is-
the
it's not
center. of
McCracken, it's McKee.
Okay.
I don't know, but there should be an access down there. It's there.
So. No, you're good.
It's a trip,
Right.
so you don't want to.
So that's
trip,
So
right?
pre that's actually not even Blackstone, right? That's.
You're right.
That's technically middle.
That's middle drop that.
Okay, so just a note, like Middle River is at Worcester Visitor Center and McKeon. Road. That there is access, but the second you put in, you can't get anywhere because it's gonna be right there, right?
Yeah.
I don't think, is there access at the visitor center? Are you believing there is access?
Fences, the chain link fences,
Yeah.
we can get in.
Right.
Yeah, I remember looking for access there and there wasn't anything.
Right. Well, so the next would be where you did put in, which is behind Walmart, which is where the
Yeah.
CSO all this.
And how did you get there? You walk down the right of way to the CSO, or the bike path is conveniently close?
Here's a picture of.
The Walmart parking lot there is very close to the banks of the river. And at that point, the bike path is on the other side of the river still. And so, but if you park in the Walmart parking lot, you can easily put your boat in right there. It's pretty, I mean, it's old bridge abutments and pretty run down, but
There is a sign and it
Okay.
says, yeah, there are
It's-
contaminants on the other side of
It's
this.
pretty easy to.
Oh, yeah,
get
okay,
down.
right near Walmart, right? So I have Walmart right here.
That would be the one.
So
Okay, well,
the
it's not
exact
very
place to put in,
I would call that a undeveloped, unsafe put in.
Mm.
Right,
so
so
we originally looked at right here though, at this, we were gonna put in at this. This bridge, but we went a little bit further down. This is where, this is exactly where it is.
Okay,
The concrete,
Parking lots.
so that's right about here.
So if you can get a better resolution.
Yeah, this is,
The 2020s are pretty great.
If you're carrying your boat,
yeah, I'm
If you
just,
can't, that's
Yeah,
fine.
it's like
it's, yeah,
more than a quarter of a mile.
back then when I was having a hard time walking, and that was. a truck.
yeah, Nate might be better.
There is a path, people get down there.
Yeah.
Saying if you don't have wheels for your kayak, though, it's a lot.
You have
can
to,
walk right down. the
you will
bike.
eat, two people carry it down,
Well, he's talking about a walk.
Somehow
from the-
worse.
that's right.
But-
So
You'd
this
say
is
like,
a landmark and this is a landmark. I would say. This is an older photograph and it shows the structure that was there, so
Okay.
a little bit further north,
right here.
No. see this thing right there?
Mhm.
Yeah, to the bank,
It's not good.
a little bit, a little,
Was it here?
perfect right there.
Okay, great.
That sounds good. So John was saying maybe we should think about like a ranking system, like.
Or
one-
rating, just a,
one-
A,
yeah.
access, B, C, F.
Right. So number one would be technically, if you wanna get through there, you can, but it's not improved and it's not good. This one similarly, it's not made for access, like there's a bike path, but you would not realize you're supposed to like climb down this river slope.
Most of the access points like around dams and things that we navigated during the,
Mhm. There's no-
it's like some of them have signs and there's supposed to be access, so that could be a kind of too, like unmaintained access or something.
Well, excuse me for taking them out of order, but isn't every dam gonna need two access points?
Yeah.
If you're wanting one to take out and then to go around and put it back in.
Yeah.
And those don't exist.
Correct.
I feel they, so I don't know if it's something that a town or somebody could ask for and not be considered.
I think it could be us to ask for it,
Right.
why put it on the town? You know, go right on the dam.
We have mostly, search parties, we've got portages around, it. We've established portages.
A dam like that, you grade it F, then you can look at all your F's,
Oh,
try to get it up to the C. But have like a legend, F stands for this, that, and that, C stands for such.
Yeah, like,
Okay, that's great, I love it.
This is a very old cattle guide. Have you seen it?
No.
And that's one of the.
Very.
Well, that was the second version, the second edition.
Can you hold that up to Emily? Have you seen that,
The
Emily?
BRWA canoe guide from the 80s, 90s.
And it's,
Thanks, Kate.
Hmm.
the river doesn't change much.
No, it's
The
my
names are there.
It's
and
my
it's-
And actually on Callie's screen.
Right there, right there.
Yeah. No,
um,
I've never seen this.
And where you can.
You opened it up for me? That looks amazing.
This is the good source of information, and it has,
Wow.
Before you leave today?
yes, actually, I will.
Donna always pulls these amazing.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Cool.
yeah, this is for you,
Oh,
and
thank
then
you.
you can stand.
This is why you're all here.
And the BRWA might have the originals. So there's a few you can inherit.
Let me see, there may be another one. I
The
have,
Heritage Corridor
we
might
have
have.
copies of things.
They don't have to,
Well, let's go to the long maps they need to. Air off maps. they need.
Wow. You're gonna use that, right?
it's a beautiful map.
You just have to walk in, verify everything.
I love this thing.
Yeah.
There's enough addition about.
So that should be our.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah, we have another one of them.
That's text, but it doesn't have.
The ones, that we had here before that we have placed.
Yeah.
Last time we did it, when we made the big man. People didn't want to put it.
Emily, this is right up your alley.
Yeah.
I like that, that was a nice size and nice thing to have.
I mean, this is, I know this is, going back to bias.
Okay.
Over just because, yeah, okay, so it's recommendations. Number is, it's just off the high.
Yeah, no, I think that I think that's the
We're gonna take a ride, but I was like, wow.
I think.
You wanna show me?
Had it for you. guys,
So-
But I had experts only.
This is Walmart.
This is a challenge.
There you go, that was. Is that no?
Going.
Oh,
We're gonna keep.
Sam?
Can you go down? Sorry, yeah, I got this. Yep, keep going. And then you're gonna see a parking lot. Zoom in, I don't know what that is.
Another time a year.
Keep going.
Keep
Going.
Okay, so what's after the.
So close.
parking lot?
Ooh,
And over
zoom out again, I don't know where we are.
In Millbury.
We go. Nope, keep going.
No,
Down. Yeah,
I have my hand in that.
Blackstone Valley Shops.
Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry, just need.
So what does that say?
Yeah.
after? Does that start out somewhere up there by where Walmart?
Oh, sorry.
was? I can-
No, that was me. Okay.
It starts out.
Oh, okay, it does start back.
It does start back up there, yeah. So. But just barely.
Well, then there's the access in the site in Millbury where the BRWA wants to do a walk around the cemetery.
Here.
They couldn't develop hundreds. It's a shame because they
But then,
put so much into using that as an
Maybe
education.
I'm just looking at this wrong, because it's not, this is actually the highway, it's not.
Do you want to look at the streets and not the imagery, the?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm just.
That was above the rapids, and then you get down to the
Like we
rapids.
did,
Is
yeah.
that the-
Thanks.
is that
Uh,
cemetery
That's what-
on Water Street in Millbury? Yeah, so-
Where's my town line between Worcester and Millbury?
I turned it off. I turned it back on.
Yeah.
Because then we took out there and went to Charette.
So this is Worcester.
No.
Okay. Millbury, straight here.
Yeah.
So right, like the window, which is no real access in downtown Millbury. It's steep slopes.
Yeah, you drop in behind the Charette's and that's,
So. Peter.
No, it must be north of the wastewater treatment facility.
Yeah.
I'm confused. I don't know. I can get
That's
there on
okay.
a road, but I can find it for you later.
Okay.
On Route 20, at Quincy Village,
I think that was our.
where you took out, I don't know where you, I know where you put in, but then when you did two in between. Oh, at Route 20. I remember, we wanted to check out Route 20, and that's right where the treatment plant falls.
Up here,
Up there.
up here, that A for access, right up there.
Well, the problem with these maps, were they almost done before 146 was built? No. Not bad. I mean, they're not that old.
Well, there we go.
Six four of them, they're done.
yeah, before all that Millbury stuff was done. And the pike,
Then the Crockett Road was different, yeah, okay. No, I can't say.
So what is our next?
I guess the Millbury Cemetery and informal access. There's
Central City and Central Cemetery in Millbury, which is where you took out.
But is that the actual next access, or is it just we wanted to paddle that?
I think that's the only, I think the reasoning was that that's all the part they thought you could paddle before you had to get out to get.
But is there an access in between if we wanted to only paddle a mile, or if we wanted to only paddle? Let me.
Without getting a board's permission or bushwhack, that's why these are kind of all just developed. There's many potential, I would think, but
Any of that, okay, so there's no signage of any
none of them.
proper, okay,
Well,
And
some of them, but.
but in between, not yet, though, I'm
Not
saying,
yet, not yet.
if we're still in. What time are we?
There's the old McCracken Dam.
All right,
And so if you.
Sorry, there's which one, Emily?
The old McCracken Dam is like, it's navigable, but remember that one, Kate? It's the one, Peter, you mentioned the pedestrian bridge that crosses over, it's right over the McCracken Dam. And it's one of those that like you can pretty much just scoot over top of. But there, it could, I think, under low conditions be also a bit of a rough, have to carry your boat over.
Right, that's what Keith is saying, that the real access to the public though is from the parking lot in Millbury. And you gotta go all along the bike path to get some to be developed access to the river. There's no formal access.
Yeah. that's further south than the McCracken Dam. Right.
Yes.
So.
Do you all know, I don't know, Steph, if you have this, have you all seen this? I don't know if you guys can see my screen, the KMZ file.
I've seen that.
There you go.
Have you all seen this?
Filters rapids, and there's a.
It's a KMZ file, and what's really great about it is essentially it has a lot of these access points. I don't know where I found it, but you could then click on it and it'll give you information about portages around the dams, goes through. So it's kind of a good starting point for a lot of what we're talking about. I don't know who put this together. Probably other people know better than I do, but I just found it online. But it kind of goes through each of the dams. And also, if I'm not mistaken,
We know Millbury Electric, Donna, we speak to that.
So one of the things that I'm looking at encountered was this guy and others, a lot of the language is really discouraging. It's a lot of, like, for example, even just the McCracken Street Dam. If I go to this spot where it says the McCracken Street Dam, man, there is no dam there anymore. Right, there's just a bunch of rocks in the water. Right. So I think maybe making it clear to users who are not part of our group that the McCracken Street Dam is basically gone and it's a rapid now. And it's shootable or it's paddleable under certain conditions, but under, low water conditions, you have to walk around.
Which is the same for downstream at Felters.
Sure.
Which was a dam that partially breached and that certain water conditions, maybe you could get across without getting on your boat, but no public access. And owned, and I call it Millbury Electric, was it known by?
That language is important, and I know a lot of the language was like, don't even bother doing this, but if we want to promote access. Right. So the other thing is that people trust the information.
Can we read it? Cracking dam, since the dam's not big, and you can name it.
Yeah, I call it.
Cracking.
But the other thing is, if that was a dam, right, and there's still rubble basically in the river, would DER give us money to hire someone to clean that up and not make it rapids, right? Take all the scrap, because that's another goal, I think, is potential for restoration in river restoration. In those couple of cases that there's like, it's just trash at this point.
Yeah, but every one of those dams has contaminated sediments.
But in
Now,
this
it's true, they're
case-
buried down a couple feet, but
But this isn't,
The owner's
this is literally digging stuff up and taking it out of the river. This isn't digging, this isn't.
I would say, try to preserve rapids, because rapids are fun, and this is probably one of the highlights of our river expedition. But like things like rebar.
Exactly, yes,
Concerts.
yeah.
Should definitely be. Right, for sure.
And can we make something where it's like there's, River Right is a slower area so that you can get through, even if you don't want to do a class, whatever rapid.
It's more along the lines of if you're running the rapid, stay River Right. And
not giving every many direction because it changes over time. It's
yeah.
depending on flow, the channel's here at medium flow and over here at high flow and there's a tree down here.
Is give some sort of classification, like a class 2 rapid under certain flow conditions, and then people who are used to reading rivers get.
And Millbury Rapids should have those passwords highlighted. That's the only one on the list.
Can I ask you where that is?
Kelly, can you load a KMZ file into your GIS, do you know?
I can, yes.
So what I would recommend is, I just emailed you that KMZ file. And if
Okay.
you're able to load that into your GIS, all of these points that everybody's talking about will automatically be geolocated.
Okay, yeah, let me see if I can do that. Thank you.
Can you get from a road, can you park somewhere and get to the river?
Well, so yes, because we did stash a car. We parked along. Here on the map, we parked under McCracken Road, under the overpass. It didn't say no parking, it's probably private property, but if we want to develop these as actual access points, maybe we could get a couple spots. And we squeezed through a gate that was locked. So,
With a boat in hand?
no, we had,
We were just scouting it to check it out before we put in above.
and
Just to
then there's public access because that pedestrian bridge. So this is the pedestrian bridge.
Mhm.
Here's where we parked under McCracken Road. Here, let me zoom out to give you a little bit of perspective. Here's where the rapids are. McCracken Rapids. We parked under here. We just walked through. And the bike path runs right along here. Oop. That's the line.
So there is a pedestrian.
There's a bike path. So
Okay,
there's
doesn't
definitely
have a
pedestrian.
fence Anywhere along, or it shouldn't have a fence anywhere along.
Well, so for convenient car parking, we squeeze through a fence, but for car parking.
Other than that,
Yeah, the Blackstone Valley Bike Path, this is an official parking area right here. And then it would
Across
be,
the river.
Across the river.
yeah, across the river. And then I think it goes under this dam.
And there,
Is it on Riverside or?
The parking area? The parking area is off of 122A on the south side of 122A.
It's actually the same parking area that we parked at when we did the actual expedition. We just walked south along the river to put it underneath that bridge. And if had we walked back along the bike path, then we would have gone to McCracken Dam. The thing is that McCracken Dam doesn't have a graded access. And so I would say that even though it's a bit of a farther walk, right now where we ended up putting in at the start of the expedition was actually easier in terms of existing grades. You know what I mean? Kate?
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. I think for the purposes of what staff's trying to do,
Of documenting everything.
I would say this isn't an access.
to be developed because we need official access, is that?
Develops, because I think if you want to run the cracking dam, I would love to do it, it's super fun. Then you put in behind Walmart and you take out onto the Main Street dam.
Okay, so that is not an access point, it's just rapids.
Yes, you think about, yeah.
Okay, alright, so continuing down our river. Is
And
our
then
next
next-
in Grafton?
Well, so the next access is where you all put in for the start of the actual expedition.
Oh, we already did that
Oh,
one.
you already did that one? Okay.
Well, Goretti's, that's.
Oh, yeah,
That's
Loretti's.
in Millbury, nice.
After you get out of the cemetery, then you went to Paredes.
Where is
I
that?
have my car, down on 122A, it's like, it takes you through Millbury Center.
Mhm.
It's just at the edge of the village there, it's a wide river, it's always got water there.
Is this what were you talking about?
It's got a nice parking lot.
Oh,
Well, that was the cemetery, I'm talking now about Goretti's, but yes, that is. the
that's
cemetery.
actually north, isn't it?
Isn't that access? Yes.
Which cemetery?
I'm not aware of any access there, but I.
Yeah, there's a path.
Pedestrian path, and it should be good,
There was,
but no parking because the cemetery got what they wanted to do.
the cemetery won't let you park there?
Not officially formally,
Really?
no, something,
Because there's plenty of parking in the cemetery.
yeah.
Well, you might say that, but that's not if you don't, if you park on the road, but that means anybody else who comes to the cemetery can't drive in and turn around.
So I would say definitely not in the lanes between, but the access road around is like.
So it's right at the entrance road, and even feeling.
We parked at the cemetery, with the trailer,
There,
not the trailer.
Right, with one car, two cars,
Yeah.
there was.
For the car.
one car, two cars, you can get away with it, you start getting 2, 3 cars, the people, neighbors must go.
Also,
Document everything and offer opportunity for.
I would say that this is a place where, folks in the know park and take out, especially.
What's the cemetery called
That was yours, I think.
or address?
It's the Central
Central-
Cemetery,
Yeah.
it's 47 Water Street, Wilbury. Millbury. See, if you go into that cemetery, just go across the bridge, if you go that road to the left. There's a road to the left, it's right on the river, you could park there
Right here?
if you were gonna use it as an access
Right over
point.
the bridge, immediately left, onto the grade now.
Oh, right here, River Street,
But then you're gonna hit the.
you hit the rapids.
The rapids.
Oh, right, I love that, that's what I'm saying, but if you're talking about it's an access point, but it's also a takeout
Take
point.
out.
But the takeout point, I think is actually, you had to take out back up where you guys took out. Which is back up to the cemetery, it's not. You know, if you knew where it was, since we didn't know. where
I would
it
say
was,
there's
we
really
should
forward
find-
pedestrian
Yeah.
paths,
find-
and that it might be an opportunity to, even if parking wasn't there, if parking was further like in the city center itself. A short walking path or signage. So that people broke down in the cemetery does not folks parking there.
And this area is important because you have to take out here before we hit another.
Rapids, wooded rapids.
Safety concern.
But the RWA is broken on the nature of the trail, that I think is very good.
That was it exactly, like when they took it all the way, they got Concom approval, they had money to do it.
Look how pretty it is. This is.
They've been using it for 4 years.
Yeah, it was.
I use this photograph all the time in my slideshows.
Oh, yeah, it
It
was,
was very pretty.
there's nights down to do that.
It was a bit of a walk through the.
Oh, yeah.
It was a walk.
I mean, they were carrying
Okay.
kayaks, something, but, you know, we could develop it. It's, I would say it's not potential.
All right. So. Then we hit rapids, what are those rapids called again?
Millbury Rapids, the only rapids really on the.
So the text in this guide is good. So they tell you where to take out and where to put in. So it's all here.
Okay.
So do you want me to read you this?
Well, yes, so say what the next stop down.
That's what we're trying to figure
From
out.
the rapids.
And I'm also trying to figure out what's still correct and what's like, you know, technically there's one spot where they made a portage, but it's so overgrown, it's impossible to even see.
That's
So,
years old.
right, so that's what I've got to know, is like, what are the existing conditions, so. But
So
that
this
is,
is irrelevant.
no,
keep
no,
going.
that's relevant.
The basic structure, yes.
Yeah,
Keep us on-
take that and then let's improve upon.
So the next after the rapids is,
Well, it's talking about if the rapids. First set of rapids encountered is class 1, class 2 at river mile 2.4. Best run on the left side. To portage, take out on the right bank at a large sandbar and carry by the rapids. The portage is about 300 yards. From here, the river is mostly quick water to the next set of rapids. After passing under the second railroad bridge, the river turns right and begins a descent through class 2 and class 3 rapids, requiring expert canoeing skills and proper gear.
that's the one.
If you are not an expert paddler, take out now.
In bold, in bold,
Oh,
in bold.
That's Millbury,
yeah,
and that's River Mile-ish.
around 2.4.
Oh, that's 2.4, that,
On the
oh,
river, right?
Take out.
yes,
Yeah.
pretty sure.
Scout the rapids from the right bank all the way to the South Main Street Bridge, under which there is a 4 to 6 foot chute. To portage these rapids, take out on the right bank before the railroad bridge at a large rock. Carry along
Right.
the Providence and Worcester Railroad right of way with the top of the steep riverbank to South Main Street. Two difficult put-ins exist just downstream of South Main Street. Alternatively, continue carrying along Maple Street to Route 122A.
Hmm.
Put 122A bridge over the river and paddle the short distance to the takeout at Riverview Street.
Did we do that?
No, we skipped all that, one right, Riverland Street is,
Because it was such a short.
Reddy's.
Riverland Street is Reddy's.
Yeah.
That's ready, it's right.
The railroad is gonna be an impediment for you all the way down the river because they are hypersensitive about access. So it's one of those cases, don't even think about asking for permission. So but in some places, that is the best and easiest, and right there, climb up over that beautiful rock culvert or that bridge and boom, boom, boom. So I'm saying ownership, if it's anywhere near the railroad, they're gonna have.
What road was that again? You said what, the bridge? Route something bridge?
122A.
Alternative to continue carrying along Maple Street to Route 122A, put in at the 122A bridge over the river and have a short distance to the takeout at Riverland Street.
See, I don't know, are they called Riverland, is that correct?
Yeah.
That's Reddy's, but they're talking
That's
about takeout.
Yeah, why would you take out a Grady?
Because you've just gone through the chute, you're gonna know where we're up if you've had enough today, and they. They put a lot of thought into these efforts, each day is like a day's a trip, and it's a way of,
But this is.
But they show the Mass Electric Dam, so maybe they're wanting you not to. Well, it's
Well, that's
showing the
good.
portage around the Mass Electric Dam, which is, this far from the river, from the Reddies.
Mhm.
yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
I feel like I need a cookie.
Donna, what do they recommend for getting around the electric dam?
Say again?
What do they recommend for getting around the electric dam?
Hold on. Okay, well, you think?
Yeah, we inhaled the cookie a little bit here.
Sorry, I'm late, but.
You're right.
I'm curious partially because at the Mulberry Electric Dam, there was a big sign. You remember this, Kate, on River Left that said Portage. And we were like, oh, wow, look, there's a Portage sign. And then we walked down it and it didn't lead anywhere. And so and they even mowed the path. Like, I guess somebody had even gone through the labor of mowing whatever that Portage path was, but it led to nowhere. And so we ended up just having to scamper down the front of the dam. But I'm just curious if in that document, Donna, if it tells anything else about that portage.
Well, it also predates a discussion with the owner of Millbury Electric for taking down that dam.
Yeah.
That was 10 years ago, and then I think Millbury Electric got heightened awareness, and I would imagine, I'm not sure who else besides them would be mowing that and putting up a sign, but you wouldn't think that they were wanting, I don't know.
Yeah, but they didn't think through the fact that if you portage, you have to get back into the river. It was like steep embankments to get back in, so.
We were brave, we did some sketchy stuff with kayaks, but we were not willing to put in.
Yeah. If anything, they should just remove the sign, because right now it's unclear, and we hauled our kayaks for like a long while and then didn't get anywhere, so. Yeah.
Okay, what this says. Now we're putting in at Goretti's.
Yeah.
Put it on either side of the Riverland Street Bridge. At River Mile 4.6, near an electric power substation, the first dam is encountered. Portage is on the right side, about 50 yards. During low water, it is possible to carry over the dam itself on the left side. Immediately after the dam is a short stretch of quick water before settling back into flat water. There are 1 or 2 short segments of the Blackstone Canal near the Cross Street Bridge. Near the Cross Street Bridge that are fun to explore. One of the many bucolic scenes encountered on the Blackstone River, Reed's Path was near the takeout at Chase Road in Sutton. And that's where Singing Dam is.
Mhm.
Same Dam, which was then developed tricentennial park by the town of Sutton.
And that actually has a decent port, I mean, that,
It has developed access, yeah.
that actually has developed access. The
I'm not-
upstream side of it needs a little bit of improvement, but the downstream is in good condition.
That was done after this guy
After
was
the mall.
What was it called?
Tricentennial Park, the Singing Dam.
Singing Dam is the name of the name. Because, why it's called Singing
It's
Dam,
a noise.
because if you park your car on the dam and open the windows, you hear the vibrations of the water going
Ah.
over falls over the dam, so it's like it's singing.
Ah.
A little bit of lore. Okay, take out just above Singing Dam. So called because of the strange rhythm made by the river flowing over it on the left side of the river. To continue, carry over Chase Road, the portage along the left bank is about 75 yards, while the right side recommended is about 150 yards. But that has been improved, hasn't it, with Tricentennial Park?
No, I don't think the park is much
Well, across
the side across the street. Along the river, but going upstream, is there a path going downstream or?
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay, you guys know that.
Yeah.
Um,
so if you put in there, where would you then go?
I'll tell you. Okay,
Sorry, can I back up for a second? So we put in a Garetti's again, right?
yeah,
And then we need to portage around Miller Electric Dam.
Now it's failed in 30 years ago, so some flows might be able to paddle through, but. I don't know, you tell me, did you paddle through? Or did you put it around?
Did we go through Miller Electric Dam?
I would say what is, there's a need for an improved portage at Millbury Electric. There's not a good portage right now. We scampered down the front of the rocks and that was low water, but in high water, it would not have been possible. And there was no other option. So I would say there's definitely a need for improved portage or for whoever put in that portage path on River Left to figure out, you know, where it's supposed to go to.
Peter and I tried to get that dam breached. Or removed. We worked with what was then Riverways, which is now,
Ecological restoration.
yeah, part of ecological restoration.
And spent a lot of money. They spent $100,000 on a study because the Army Corps had to switch because we couldn't do anything with the sediments. We wanted to attract migratory waterfowl. So we used the leftover money from the Army Corps to study, oh, let's take a low hanging fruit, this dam that nobody wants.
So DER has a ton of money out there for dam removal right now. So, I mean, it's gonna be some dams on their priority list. Yes,
Yeah, yes.
who is it owned by?
It's Mass Electric,
It is.
not Millbury Electric.
That's all.
But they didn't know they owned the dam. He
Yeah.
told them that. And then they were immediately worried about liability.
And it had to be all or nothing. It couldn't just be a partial breach.
Right.
So what was $1 million project grew to 2.5, and there was no local partner who had $250,000 to match and get all the money rolled.
There's a lot of money out there right now. So
Well, that's
I've
good.
avoided main stem dam removal projects because of the sediments and that's like the whole, you're okay. That's the whole thing, but we're working on the lower floor.
This one was started with done, and the numbers were driven for partial breach and total takeout, so.
But if people are interested, that's something that we can put back on the list. We can-
Yeah, there's money.
Okay. Okay, it's just a good little note to have here. All right, so. We either somehow went through around that dam and now we're in the river again.
We're taking out the Chase Road Singing Dam and now we're putting in.
Took out of it, yeah.
Yeah. So put in just downstream of Spinning Dam. On either side of the river, putting in on the left. Adjacent to the bridge abutments enables paddlers to run a stretch of class 1 rapids before settling into quick water.
That was written before the improvements. Right now, the portage is river right.
Okay.
Yeah.
After the rapids and quick water downstream of Chase Road, the river is mostly flat water with an easily runnable 1 to 2 foot drop at river mile 6.2 near several factory buildings. To portage around this drop, take out on the right bank and carry about 30 yards. The next portage is at a breach dam at Saundersville Mill, river mile 6.7. Portage is made by paddling well to the left side of the dam and carrying directly over the dam. Oh, Peter.
Yes, Saundersville, yes, Saundersville is a nightmare. You have to lower the boats down by hand over a 12-foot. So it was nice, right? And a nice team effort. Liability.
How did the expedition, how did we?
We climbed over it.
You climbed or?
You did.
And helped it up. And we could do that at Fisherville too. That's another awful thing. They're the same exact story. How do you
Yeah.
get it?
Before we, the rock that they mentioned in that report, Wilkinsonville Dam is what I think that old dam was called, the one before we get to Saundersville. And that was a spot where if I don't remember correctly, Kate, I think the first time you and I ran it, and then I think that when we actually did the expedition, we tried to portage around it. And it was pretty sketchy. And I remember, I remember.
Lunch break, any wave with us?
The what?
Was that the dam that we ran where there was a guy on lunch break laughing at us?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was sitting there on his smoke break and he was watching us. But then when we did it the second time, it was a little bit sketchy. And I remember somebody like slipped and fell right there trying to get around it. You remember that? Yeah. So anyways, I do think that there's possibly a need. I mean, I don't think it's the kind of rapids that everybody would feel comfortable going over. And so I do think that it's something that should be added as a need to consider how to get around it.
Yeah. Well, can we take that? Is that a Cass River Dam? So that one is called Wilkinsonville,
Uh-huh.
and it's between Singing and Saundersville.
Any of the
Yeah.
main dams south of Mister are problematic with the same.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I know that, but like, it's so short, I wanna say it was only like. That was the one I've always had in mind of take the rubble out of the river, because currently it's dangerous. And it's not a real dam. And and it was like. I didn't take a picture of that one. Because Emily, you went river right to go around it, right? And then I went
Yep.
river to go around it, and it was not fun. When we ran it, we went straight down the middle.
Yeah.
I went first.
And this is referred to it as the Saundersville Dam, but
Normally said it was
much closer to Wilkinsonville.
Don, isn't the Wilkinsonville where we went over at high water and Chuck saved your life?
sounds about right.
Yeah, I think so.
That's a story you tell. I was there, but I didn't quite see that.
Doesn't seem.
Because
like
it doesn't
it's
seem like a
actually-
dam, but the river bends there and it's.
The river bends there, comes on you quick, you can definitely avoid it, if you know how to like, reading the water. But like, there's no way to read the river downriver, it just drops off. You know, it's not very steep, so. You know, it's not like going off like some of the really larger Main Street dams, but like Main Street dams, but like, yeah, it's just a problem. And
Mhm.
Wilkinsville is in what town?
It's in summer.
It's in Suffolk.
The Mill Village. And then Saundersville begins in Grafton.
Yeah.
So it goes Saundersville. Fisherville, and then Farms.
Yeah. And I would say Saundersville was probably the most sketchy of all the portages that we did.
That was the tall one that we were climbing over.
Yeah, it's a breached dam. I mean, it's fully breached. It's just that it's not safe to go through the part of the dam where it's breached. So you have to go river left and then lower the boats over the front of it.
And it's reached on the right.
Yeah.
Breach to the right, yeah.
So then downstream of that, the river branches, right? Some with the canal would go right. But the most of the river goes around left and it joins Quincy River and it's got that big floodplain marsh. And you can paddle right to the Fisherville Dam.
Well,
And then Portage
Yeah.
River left was Gene Burnett, I think the developer, David, or.
Oh, Fisherville?
At
yeah,
Fisherville.
yeah, well, yeah, at Pleasant Street, the river divides, and as you say, to the right is the, canal. And that's where it kind of saved my life.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But then the river makes a big loop. And then goes under Pleasant Street, but then the canal joins the river. Well before Fisherville.
Okay.
And then, so it's. And then the canal is within the river. Where after they join. And then, it joins, the Blackstone joins the Quincy. Just behind the dam and,
Yes.
Fisherville Mill, pond, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there's good. Is there good portage?
Well, there was 15 years ago, but I don't know, I don't think anyone ever used it.
That one was easy because you could go to the actual park. The town of Grafton has a park.
Yeah.
We camped there, actually.
No, but how do you get around the dam? How would you?
The dam itself, it was river right, and it was a pretty steep embankment on both sides of it. To get up the hill, it was kind of like poison ivy. There was definitely no it was not a designed or developed access.
What would take through what Gene Burnett wants to be a restaurant there. He wanted
Oh,
to
yeah.
get access on River left. I don't know if any paperwork was ever exchanged.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
we
don't know
Yeah,
what sort of access it really is.
yeah.
Structure there, like a water control structure.
Right.
On River left.
Yeah, I remember when we checked it out, River Left, it looked like the footing was nicer downstream, but
Where did you go?
it was really long for them to get around where that structure had been.
And instinctively, you want to go right, and you're right, downstream, then you have, that's where the natives. Claim ownership of the island in the middle, and it's a very spiritual spot, kind of there, it's flat.
Cool.
Under the river, under the bridge, under 122. And there's a great footage with the town park, there, right?
Yeah.
Is that what that, is that what, you can't do the outside structure?
Yes, but they call it Three Village Park or something, because of the three Grafton, South Grafton villages.
Mill Village.
Mill Village Park.
Mill Village Park, you know,
No Village Park.
Yeah, certainly.
Mill Village Park, yeah, written down.
So if you put in there and you're heading downstream, that's where you run into either, I've never heard of anyone running Farmersville, so you gotta take out River right. Before you get to Farmersville, or?
I think,
Yeah,
that's, here you go, here's that portage.
Yeah.
Yes, that's not bad, that's been, someone maintained that, that looked dope, the poison ivy I remember was.
Yeah,
this Barnumsville,
right
Yeah.
before
You
it.
guys must have done that on your own.
but there was no fencing.
There's a fence, a Jersey barrier further somewhere, I think, right, when you cross the road.
It's kind of, oh, I have a video here.
Or is that where we went in and helped you and took you around?
For Farnhamsville, it was just a long walk with the boats.
It's a walk.
Yeah,
And there wasn't a construction fencing, or to get over the Jersey barrier, to get over the street. And then so you can put in on the south side of that.
We put in above the street. Depot Street, yeah, we put in north of Depot Street.
And then we,
Okay, so that's what I'm calling the portage. Okay, you
Yeah.
take out north of Depot and you put in south of Depot.
No, it's, the dam is like up further upstream from Depot, and so they're both upstream of Depot, but it's right there. Because I think what's happened is that, my understanding, you guys probably know this area better, but is that maybe there was an old impoundment there, and then it's now drained.
Blue Cove, maybe it's not available. You used to be able to, you'd take River Right and go up into the cove. And then up to the road, and then I guess down the road a little bit, and then onto. But that was the guy owner, that was ownership problems. Private owner, and he,
Yeah. And now the Grafton Land Trust owns the property to the south of Depot Street. And they have a trail, I think, but I don't know if that's a portage.
should be, could be.
That area we ran into the fence and then had to go back, and you've got the ruins of the dam. And you,
And there's a peninsula out there to a water control structure, and
Oh, yeah.
you would come into that impoundment. We had water.
Go right up.
Was it? Well, there you go. Then you gotta drive your boat there. So there is no good portage around Farmers Hill.
Yeah,
running around the chain link fence and everything.
So,
yeah,
we just like cut that corner, cut that chunk out, right?
I think
He just was with his pointer. Yeah,
we pretty much did that,
right,
oh, okay, so you,
that's exactly
I
what we
see.
did.
Yeah.
yeah.
You never-
Because this was some sort of maybe old dam structure here, and so we got out above it and then put in right below those.
Oh, it is so dry, there's no water going over there.
No, yeah, no,
Huh.
that's what you did at the time.
Oh, because since that dam is not holding water.
Exactly,
Up water so much to fill in that.
exactly. Because did this all used to, it definitely feels like this all used to be underwater.
Yeah. That was,
Yeah,
that was only 10 years ago.
yeah,
No, only 15. All right, so say you put it in south of Depot Street. Then it's a straight shot into Rockdale, right?
No, remember. I don't know if I recall this stretch.
So that's South Grafton, and then you're coming into north, it's a pretty long haul there,
yeah.
Yeah.
and you work your way.
Water. That's one rapids, it's
Riverdale's the next one.
In Riverdale, bless his soul, Jim Knox. I hope there's a formal document. He always allowed access and developed the portage on River Left.
Uh-huh.
And to get around his dam. Factories on River Right, of course. So parking might be an issue because people own those houses and there's no good parking, but it's not a bad.
It's not bad, parking. You can do it, and it's bad.
Couple of cars in.
If you were gonna get in there, pretty much go either way. Of course, when they were there last year, they were walking, driving.
Right.
Because all of that area up above that dam was dry.
Yeah.
You guys walking from where I could see you, from where you came around the corner, you had to drag your boats to.
Well,
So that one's one that just needs like a weed whacking, poison ivy,
Yeah.
cutting
Sure.
back,
Keep
making
it
it
open.
wider.
Yeah.
yes.
So
But it's not.
there wasn't anything wrong with that. Remember, we could use the cart to wheel them.
Mhm.
I mean, it was aggressive wheeling. but-
Look at that.
Since they were.
Aggressive.
Yeah, you know, that was aggressive for the wheel. but-
So if you were gonna rate that, would that be like a B portage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's here, what is, it ain't portage, is a pretty nice portage.
That, I thought that was a
Say-
decent portage to me. That was fine.
Well,
Mhm.
Good low standards.
there's a lot of A's on Rhode Island.
Well, that's
That's what I'm
where they
saying,
can
let's
tell, that's
find
right.
an actual A, it's not.
These are all
just-
informal access. The only formal access really is Tricentennial Park, I would think.
Yeah.
Been designed, thought given into that.
Yeah, I think we should have some high standards here. I think we should honest with ourselves. This is not, just like Blackstone rating. This is, we want everything to be an A1.
If you are a person who can put a kayak on your car, and you wanna go, you got a friend, you know about rivers and how to do river, like, would it be obvious that this is where you put it? Like either on the internet or in a guide,
I mean, if we put it in a guide,
yeah,
but I would still say it was maybe
It sounds
something minus portage.
yeah, some of these at least need a sign. I think every single access should have a sign.
I agree.
That's where we spent our money when we had the grant.
Yeah.
We had really nice signs made, for the nine did it. One thing, if you ever have signs made, ask them how long the signs will go. 'Cause all those signs, really, a lot of those signs we had down there made that faded a lot sooner than I thought.
These are up like crazy.
And you need that UV resistant.
Yeah. Well,
And then also sometimes people just.
well, I consider, 10 or 15 years not long enough, because just the other day that they put it up, we just put that up the other day. Why is it fading?
It'll take so long to get the project, just to put up a sign,
Yeah,
you want it to last long time.
Yeah, I agree.
then,
Carved in rock.
So from Rockdale is the next one, Plummer's Landing?
Well, I think, are you think Riverdale?
Well, Rick should be after Rick.
Yeah.
With Rockdale, you just go, what do you, Rockdale?
when you
The
went from
dams.
Riverdale, you went down to. Did you paddle to Plummer's Landing, and then we didn't take you out, and you decided to go ahead?
Yeah,
Oh,
there's-
oh gosh, yeah, there's that.
That's right, you did that, you guys made that decision, that was.
Plumbers?
Oh, no, we did.
Oh, no, they did.
We did.
Right?
We can read on it.
We kayaked how many miles that day, Emily?
yeah, it was insane. And we dragged, kayaking is a stretch. I mean, we dragged our boats how many miles that day?
Yeah,
Yeah, there was a guy with him that said he grew up there and he knew everything about him. He said, oh, yeah, they'll be fine. Yeah, he didn't look so fine about it. Remember, we told him not to do it, didn't we?
Okay.
So was it a question of not enough water or overgrown with trees?
It's not a-
Yeah.
Not enough water.
Both.
Both?
Yeah, but the overgrown with trees is because the state won't let us cut them. They don't.
Well,
Because you wanna get all
But don't wanna
that
take
legal
color
permission.
well, let's just have a little discussion on that, because there's two different stories about river maintenance in Massachusetts versus Rhode Island. The two state parks. Don Plumgarty, the director for the longest time, would go out with a chainsaw and a canoe. He was a crazy guy. And he did that permission, and he did it because it knew it needed to be done. After his passing, no, the state will not allow, you couldn't get permission. So it kind of left the state. The BRWA took Chuck. Chuck took it over.
Chuck and I-
Whatever.
Chuck and I-
Every year to have the race, someone would have to clear the channel. And that hasn't been, I don't know who's been doing it for the last 10 years. I know.
They have to be, that's
Right,
it.
haven't been, they don't think they've done it since that only I did it, and ended up in the hospital.
So the state, no, kind of owns it, but they don't have this tradition of maintaining. it. And chainsaw.
And if you ask for, recognition,
The lawyers,
tell you you can't.
Right.
as opposed to in Rhode Island, they've learned, no, these guys, they do a great job and save us a whole whack of money. I'll let them go crazy, right?
Well, I don't know if they say that or not, because.
I think
I
it's.
They just don't have.
Yeah, I don't know, I
And
just,
volunteer with chainsaws, yeah.
Well, we were working with DCR though,
Right,
and they
yeah.
were trying to get permission appropriately, and because they started to ask for permission. They
we
had to,
couldn't do anything.
right, if you hadn't,
I
Does
just-
DCF actually own the river?
They own both banks,
decide.
and they would consider themselves responsible for all the trees.
Just to go back historically, and so their, physical therapy. 3 or 4 days ago, the guy was there. And I'd say, I'm 70, he must have been in his late 50s, but he's saying when he was about 8 or 9. He grew up there, and there was a guy going down with a chainsaw. To cut the trees for the race, straight by way back.
Probably.
Talking about him going down there in his Volkswagen, and he took these kids with him And he almost cut his leg off with the chainsaw, put a tourniquet around, and drove himself to the hospital.
Go get
The
it.
guy's telling me this, and I'm sitting there wanting to just throw up. Because I'm just like, you know,
So the current director.
but they've been doing, that's the history of doing it, because trees are always gonna fall, and if they fall in that section. There ain't no counting, I mean, that section, you gotta get them out of there, because you can't go.
Right, so the current guy can only do it when the water is right levels.
Yeah.
So he got permission, but it's gotta be real low water, so he can take one or two guys and spend a couple days clearing it.
Yeah.
That's just not high on his priority list.
Right. Despite last summer, which was literally perfect
You trying
conditions
to get-
every single day,
Yeah.
because we can get into it.
But that's the sort of thing where maybe a volunteer corps could be developed, and make it easier for them. to
That's
say.
when more trees fall and you have those droughts.
I know.
But plumbers in general, like, we know that this has been a historically dangerous area.
Those S terms.
So you have to know where you're going on the river, that's one of the big challenges, because you can easily get lost, right? So that's.
Well, you know, they said that, I always thought it was, I did it, you know, relatively unexperienced, my wife, and I didn't think it was that big a problem. That's
Yeah.
happening in there, it's just.
I think it's a lot of language thing, I think it's just like. So dangerous.
So, well, it's
I
about.
don't.
There's no problem, so the trees come down, then you get strainers. And you
Right, yeah, there are strangers on it, and there's one tree that's been frosted for years that you have to go under.
And we do know that people have died doing part of it. So, you know, if we were going to encourage people to paddle on the Blackstone, this is probably not the first area we're going. to.
Experts only?
Yeah, so we need, I think there's a balance of like wanting to push for recreation and wanting to also be really clear.
Yeah, I think the more information,
Right.
including pictures, including like descriptions of what the access.
Yeah,
actually
certain
is.
warnings of the certain, because there's certain curves that are always going to be potentially dangerous, because you're 90% of your current's gonna take you right under those trees and
Right.
take you out, you have to plan ahead.
Emily, is this also, I can't remember, what was the part that like the curve was running the wrong way and you were like, no, we have to go against the current? And we were like, really, that seems crazy, but it was
That's the
totally
whole
true.
mountains, right, goes.
That was,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, you can't make that true either, that's.
Yeah.
bad news.
So it is confusing at times.
No, it was after Rivers Bend, the next stretch, yeah. Because I would say Plummer's Landing south, big part of Rivers Bend, past that is all these meandering, really unclear channels that you could easily get disoriented in.
Okay, so then the takeout is at Rice City Pond just before Hartford Avenue, right? The state has a nice. Wide, but then you gotta. Well, or you take out, that's river left, you take out river right and portage over. You go under the bridge. And then portage into the canal.
Yep.
And then take the canal down to Stanley Woolen. I guess you could take out there, not in the,
Why would you do that?
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I would go to the river.
You go to the river, that's right. So go in the river and then at Route 16, well, you can run Route 16, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also good access. so
That's a good access
That's a
point.
very good access.
That's a nice access point right there, below Stanley Mill on the other side of Route 16. It's a nice little access point.
That could be a round trip where you could have it back up to the canal.
Oh, that's what they do a lot there, yeah. That's what we did.
And then from there, you're golden all the way down through South Uxbridge until you. Right, you go
You
back.
got Uxbridge at Minden, I have, you can also take out down at Millville Road. You can put in or take out at Millville Road. When you go under that bridge. Then I don't know where people officially put in at Millville to go down to the gorge. Does anybody know that? I don't know where that is.
No, usually you run the Millville Rapids.
Mhm.
Yep.
They go up, there isn't a place in Millville that you put in and go down.
I think when we did it, I think Frank might have portaged around those rapids the first time, if I remember correctly, Kate. So I think he went on this kind of river ride alternate portage.
Right, and I was like, well, let's go look.
Well,
Yeah.
There's two ways.
Yeah. I remember getting out and having lunch there, and you were telling us about the birds.
But I'm not sure there's a good place to put in your canoe there, right? The bank is.
I don't know about access.
There's no, yeah.
Yeah, so you stay in the river all the way until then you hit the gorge.
And then, if we're talking about wording, so we had an alternate portage, Millville, for the Millville Rapids, I would just say that's the portage, probably.
Yes. Because otherwise, what, you onto the island somewhere and then you, well, I don't know, the other side.
It wasn't terrible, but we had pretty low flow water conditions.
It probably would be more high flow. Or higher.
That one, it scared me because that was the first time I'd ever done rapids.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and I was like,
That's like, you don't have to do it, it's just really fun, I haven't seen it there.
No, there's a little turn there and it's not.
they're like,
straight shot.
oh,
Yeah.
really?
It's not a straight shot.
Yeah.
You have to be precise. Lets you know you're alive.
Yeah. I think, I walked around the first one, I only shot the second.
That's right, I remember that.
Yeah.
The first one was easy, it was just standing waiting,
Scared me.
yeah.
River access developed at Millville Lock, I'm not sure what you gotta do to. You know, get out of the boat, gotta climb up a bank, I haven't done that in
Millville Law.
years. They used to, water would come right into the lock there, right, or pretty close. So it's a great, I mean, it's public park, and then you got the trail, that trail nearby. With the bicycle. Then you go under Triad Bridge.
Hmm.
Hey, 900 you as a purpose, you did all this in the dark. I know, I was sitting there waiting for it and it was pitch dark.
It was, yeah, when we got out.
It's,
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
so then a class
That's right, we
A,
did that.
class A portage at the.
Yeah.
That,
Black
exactly, that's what
But that's only one side, where do you
Class A access.
access, because then you got
Yes,
right.
access, you skip that, you have to skip a lot of this next part, because there's no access to that part of the
What
river.
about the condominiums? Isn't
At
that
the
one
point there,
access
that the
condominium?
people who own the power plants, there might be access.
So I've been on the river here, I've
It looks
gone
like
up
this-
to the bottom of the bridge.
You can come in, you can come down the branch too. There's a
I
branch.
parked right above the Blackstone Dam and we paddled upriver
Yeah.
to the gorge. Because we wanted to look at the power plant discharge.
Well,
Hmm.
I know people at the power plant, so I could always get in. I used to go in there all the time when you could go drive down there.
I will say I wouldn't say it's a class A access at the above the Blackstone Dam. It was pretty steep under the bridge to get in, but like it was doable.
Well, what we've done there is
Blackstone
had
Dam.
permission of the Blackstone Valley Boys Club. That was kind of because that lawn went right down.
So it's nice because there's parking right there, and what we did was we put in right under the canal street
Yeah,
and then paddled river because it's.
right, there's like we said, there's a bridge there, and you can just go in right by the bridge, it's a little steep, not bad,
It's not bad.
we didn't do that for the.
no.
No, that's
skipped that
that's
part.
what made my other river adventure.
Okay.
We
Believe it or
skipped
not,
that part,
Last summer was not the first time we went, so.
and then we went in over by the police station. off of
Yeah.
Wall Street.
But this is an ideal local recreation, the Blackstone Valley Boys Club, that's where the expedition spent the night, and they had buildings and yard, I'm not sure who's in control of it, I think Blackstone Recreation Department. I don't know.
They had it, I just recall they have a dock too, like if you wanted to
have access there.
Right?
A couple years ago.
Yeah. you
At
can't
the
go there.
Boys Club?
No, we don't go there now.
It's not
No,
good.
I don't know why, but I heard what you said. It's been solved.
Oh,
That is no longer an access.
that's too bad.
Anyway, just that section, if somebody wants to do it, the only place I say to do it is under that bridge.
And that's
You
the
said
bridge,
at the Blackstone Dam, I have here.
And that's only river access above the
Above.
dam. I don't know how you get below the Blackstone Dam.
I don't need
Oh, we.
Blackstone Town Hall, maybe?
Yeah, that's what we did.
Go along the police station.
Yeah.
We put in here at Roosevelt Park this last year when we went, because we took out a,
Yeah, that's where they're doing extension, so that's all, they're changing that whole slope.
That's another good point, yeah, because they're putting in that part from.
yeah, we pulled down here. This is all pretty steep riprap, but then right here, that was a kind of nice spot right there. That was a little bit protected and easier access.
Like, where they're making an overlook there, so I even wonder if they're gonna redo that hill.
Is that construction right there? Look at all that construction. I don't know if in this area was from.
Don't get me going on the Army Corps and Woonsocket and trying to save the trees on the levees. We took it as far as it could go, but no, they were going, I think they might have saved a little bit, but. They were saving that.
Yeah, this is recent.
We go in right by that park, that's the only access I know to there, because I've always done it from up at Cold Springs Park, that whole section, either way, I have to go in the middle.
Yeah, what is it? It looks
So
like.
I say, anyway, that's all one containment, the Thunder Mist Dam, the Thunder Mist Dam, all the way back up to Blackstone Dam. Is pretty much always just one contained body of water.
Could be the town brush recycling wood.
Yes, that's what it is. It's owned by Blackstone. That's where all of the stuff they do.
Versus the ball fields, right on the state line, you gotta go all the way around into it, but that's a.
And then once you hit Woonsocket, you are
So
fully industrialized, riprap slope, not even a fun. You know, like trees are awful.
oh, they took all the trees down. They took all of those levees had trees on them 4 years ago, big trees. They took them all out, but Cold Springs Park is an excellent.
Yeah.
You want to talk about for recreational canoeing, Cold Springs Park is an excellent place to go. It's an actual boat ramp.
This one.
Right there,
Well,
yeah.
let's see, but I mean, hey, look, if you're gonna do canoeing, you can put it down, you can paddle all the way
We have
almost
it
to
here.
the dam.
Yeah.
And you can also go all the way down to Thunder Mist Dam. Very, for paddling sake, they could take groups out too and look around. It isn't nearly as pretty as it used to be, but it's there. Now, the dream was always to put a dock. That was one of Bob's things, was to put a dock there in Marketplace Square in Woonsocket. But that never happened. They were gonna put a dock that was a big explorer there.
They got
Yeah,
access
yeah.
though, right? There's access.
No, there's no access. That's the point. You cannot get out of the river there. You have to go back up to Cold Springs Park unless you're people like us who do get out there. But there is no place to get out, believe me, it's
At Thunder Mist?
it's all levied because after the flood, that entire area is levied because it in 1955, it flooded everything. It wiped out, downtown, cemeteries and everything. But that was actually caused by a dam break on the Middle River. I mean, on the other Mills River. So anyway, then you go down through town. Like I said, you gotta go back to Cold Springs, get back on it. You put in River Island. Must be an A rated.
Yeah.
Nice. That was not new, where you and I went down, you couldn't ask for a better place to get in.
This
and
is
the
where you
water
put
is.
your boat in the water.
So you can put your boat in water. I think that's an excellent site, although. Depends on where you park and if you ballsy enough. Most people don't drive down that little road.
No, it's being nicer, having a little bit closer, but it's good enough.
Oh, no,
Wait.
that's a very good one there.
No, wait, sorry, the Cold Spring boat ramp is a great boat ramp, but hard to drive to.
Oh, no, everything's good about
We're
that.
talking about,
River Islands.
Now, Keith, I don't want to support Bob Billington too much, but there was a restaurant there, and then there's like an abandoned, and that's where he had put out a temporary dock, and that's where I heard the city was planning
Yeah,
on
nothing's happened.
at least a park. We're not talking river access, because it's a drop there, like.
Oh, yeah, it's a solid, it's a block wall, those are walls across there.
Yes.
Yeah, they channelize them.
But that's, there's no reason to get involved in that because nobody's gonna do it, just period. Paddle back up to Cold Springs, take that as a thing, to do it right. I mean, to do it so that everybody can do it. Not, if you're adventurous and you're going downstream, you do what we did last year, you drag your boat up off the side, walk it down to the next place and get back in.
because River Island is such a nice place to put in, it does make sense to have a takeout above the stand that's accessible.
Yeah, definitely.
I'll see.
Peter, what were you saying that they wanted to put a park somewhere over here? Did you say?
Well, that's where Bob had put his temporary dock when he did.
Uh-huh.
It was like right in this stretch here.
Right there on that tree.
I can't see where you're pointing. Am I near right now with my mouse?
200 feet,
Your person.
200 feet upstream of the dam, river left. There's a couple buildings.
Right where we took it out, Emily, we took our boats out, climbed up the hill, put them on the trailers. We walked past one building, two buildings. Right there, so
Okay.
it's about 200 feet down from where you took out right where that hand is on the map.
Yeah.
Whoever's doing the map.
Yeah.
That you took out, and two buildings down from that, they may be torn a building down. They, at one time, Bob put a temporary dock there,
Ah,
is that.
At
But
the old
see-
fish and chips.
Yeah, but if it is, they build a dock there, you've got a dock in deep water right above a dam.
hmm,
You'll be that comfortable with it.
yeah,
And unfortunately, Army Corps just has no luxury of space to do anything. I'm sure that they would love to be able to provide one. No, Army Corps, no, safety first and foremost. Whatever.
So you come down, if we're talking about real access points, and you got River Island as a real access point.
Yeah.
Grade A. Yep, and the next one is River's Edge.
At the town city line there, which would be another class A.
Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't.
River's Edge, yep.
I'm afraid I have to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we are past time, I'm sorry.
Yeah. And you want to do the sign stuff?
I'll give you the checkbook. How about that?
I think the remaining accesses are all
Yeah.
really clearly marked.
Yeah,
And
we're
we
not-
could send it- Oh, man, that was our project, we did those, and we made sure, and I try to keep them all open and maintained and. I mean, that's what,
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
I'm missing a page.
I love it.
That's in the copy, which I don't get to.
Can I take a picture of this page? So we remember where, oh, you don't know where it is?
I do, but what about to take a picture?
I think I scanned the other one, the other copy that we have. I just didn't grab it before I came here, it may be the exact same book.
No.
That's a nice 4 mile stretch.
Stephanie, I can send to everybody and it's a billable, as a billable. Whatever it's called, where you can add to it,
Okay.
or if you want to work out something else.
I just
No, that would be
forwarded
great.
that on too, that we had that, and you can work on the Rhode Island side.
We can see you all.
Thank you for coming, this is very helpful, obviously there are a lot of areas left to go. So I think,
Fiona?
This is not. Well, I can fill in a ton of the information on everything in Rhode Island.
Yeah, that would be great.
And any of the, all the ones I know, because I know the state of them as of this year. Last year, but
Yeah.
because we just, and you're, I would recommend the river because nobody else is going to. Stephanie said she can go. She went out with her dog instead.
Oh, they have love.
Yeah.
It's great. Everybody wanted to go to the hospital.
Yeah, they went to the hospital and all that good stuff. Now Stephanie went down.
I will again. And now that you've met Kaylee, you can take Kaylee here. Get her a vote.
Well, that's the run that, Chris and Bonnie and I took for a number of years.
Well, we were supposed to go out again. We were gonna go yesterday with Emily and then there were thunderstorms and then.
So.
P.S. I have a meeting with the city of Worcester tomorrow with Eric Greats and Devin from the Heritage Court. I don't know who started the meeting, but they want to talk about CSO, so.
He's got some connections. About that.
Yeah,
And I told him that the BRWA was.
they are. They're doing educational programs. So I talked to the sewer engineering guy.
Where's he?
Used to work with combined sewer.
Or see us.
Combined.
Raw sewage getting in the rivers.
It's not really cross section Worcester, it's different. So that's the like.
Partially untreated.
It is, yeah, I'm not sure what it is exactly.
Every time that culvert flows, they have to, and they don't even know how much, so it's 9.7 million gallons.
Well, no, they actually just updated it.
Oh, did they?
Yes, because they used to not have,
They had to estimate it.
they have new information, like I never saw it before the one last night.
Yeah.
Has it? I don't know when it changed and I wasn't paying attention before,
I just
but
got one today.
yeah, the last night one was updated.
Okay.
So it says million gallons of treated sewage, million gallons of untreated sewage. And it's broken up and the untreated is 0. And there has only been 4 times in the past 15 years that the entire neighborhood has flooded so much
That's right, yeah.
that they weren't able to pump in the water because literally the streets are underwater. And so that sewage that combined is just going straight to the river, but
So it's all treated sewage.
it's all been screened, somewhat filtered from solids, chlorinated and dechlorinated. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Did
Sorry.
Donna leave the map that she had or the guide?
yes.
She did awesome. Great.
I'll scan that and give it to you.
That would be great. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Keith, I think that must be the document that you had those laminated sheets from, right?
No,
No,
that's a
it's
different set of maps, but I also have this one, and we use this one to build that one, and we had the different maps for that was another project. We did that for the whole river. And those laminated ones were trips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Each one was a trip.
The access.
Yeah.
Which is much better than the leak language that we found about, which was stay home.
Nice to meet you.
Enjoy your summer.
Hi, Bonnie.
Bye.
Okay.
We have a lot of good materials to go on. Like at a certain point, I stopped trying to like do the GIS thing and just started taking notes because I couldn't.
Well,
It's
that's
just a lot of
I
information.
have some of it here.
Yeah.
Some of it in my head, and I also recorded this whole thing, so you can just watch it 3,000 times and pick up what everyone said.
Can't
Yeah.
wait.
I think the good news, what I would say is this, the KMZ file that I've been kind of sharing on the screen, actually having recently done the trip, last year, like, I would say it's mostly accurate. And so it's a really excellent starting point to like start figuring out how to make it accessible. Because I think the problem is that like most people don't have access to this KMZ file. And it's also like really hard to understand what it is that you're seeing on the screen when you're actually out in the field, right? Or when you're on the river. And so I think that's just like part of the challenge of this is to figure out like where and how do we make it more accessible? Where and how do we start to then also prioritize, portages or access points, identify, where is there generally lacking access points, where are the dams that need the portages, and then, kind of probably then going after those priority projects. But I think that in terms of understanding that this KMZ file is a good place at least to start with. It pretty much captures almost everything that we saw last year, with a couple exceptions.
Yeah, no, the KMZ file is definitely helpful.
Great. Were you able to open that?
Yeah, I was following along with you, so thank you for that. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's
That's
excellent.
part of it too, is just gathering all of these existing resources into something that we can
Yeah,
draft and then come back to you guys and be like, all right,
Yeah.
what are we missing? What did we get wrong?
yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Separately, I was supposed to ask you guys, Kate and Emily, about when we can meet to talk about dam Atlas permitting stuff.
Permitting stuff.
Permitting stuff.
We were supposed to talk about that, yeah.
Yeah.
Dam Atlas in general, but specifically permitting stuff, if you have time. Maybe,
This week's kind of toast.
yeah,
Next week, I'm available Wednesday on anytime.
Next
Pretty
week,
much.
I'm not available.
okay.
Emily, what was the EM guidance from? So obviously we already got off there.
What was that, Kate?
Just coming over.